What's up guys, it's Atomic and welcome to my channel. With the highly anticipated Update 3.0 releasing tomorrow, the 7th and last element of Genshin Impact, Dendro, will finally be added to the game, alongside 8 new reactions. Well, 7 since burning is obviously already in the game. Today, I'm going to be going through everything you need to know about these brand new reactions and maybe if we finally got a useful main character element. Let's start by going over what each reaction does. Burning is probably the reaction everyone is familiar with. It is achieved by applying Dendro and Pyro on an enemy, and deals AoE Pyro damage. Quicken is achieved by applying Dendro and Electro on an enemy, and serves as a catalyst to the Aggravate and Spread reactions, which is achieved by applying Electro and Dendro after Quicken is triggered respectively. Both of these reactions buff the damage received of their corresponding trigger elements on enemies by a flat amount, similar to how Shinhe and Yunjin works. Lastly, the Bloom reaction is triggered by applying Dendro and Hydro to an enemy, which spawns a seed. If left alone, the seed will rupture, which deals Dendro damage to surrounding entities, which includes yourself. If the seed is hit with Pyro, it will trigger Burgeon, which causes the seed to explode violently, dealing Dendro damage to surrounding entities in a larger area. If the seed is then hit with Electro instead, Hyper Bloom will be triggered, which will consume the seed to spawn a homing projectile that tracks to the nearest enemy, dealing Dendro damage. Now that we've gone over what each reaction does, let's discuss them in depth. Burning does AoE Pyro damage over time after being triggered. While burning, the Dendro aura is slowly consumed, expiring after 1.74 seconds if left untouched. Pyro will also be applied rapidly to surrounding enemies during its duration as well. Burning is considered as a transformative reaction and have the following damage formula, with the EM of the character that applied Pyro, not Dendro, being used in the formula to calculate the final damage. Here are the extra details of burning. Other elements applied will always react first with burning, first reacting with Pyro, then potentially with Dendro if the applied element's aura is strong enough to fully utilize the Pyro aura. Other elements react in accordance to priority. For example, applying Electro to burning will proc Overload, Anima will proc Swirl, and Cryo Melt. Burning can be extinguished with the above method at any time using any element since the Pyro aura is being used first. Hydro is the most reliable way to achieve this and can even proc Bloom if the aura is strong enough. Due to burning actually dealing AoE Pyro damage, it can continuously proc itself on nearby enemies with a Dendro aura, like just how a fire spreads through a forest. Bloom creates a seed after being triggered, with a maximum number of 5 allowed at a time on field. Each seed has a 6-second timer before it ruptures. If Pyro is applied, the seed explodes violently, and if Electro is applied, the seed is consumed to trigger Hyper Bloom. All of the Bloom reactions are also considered to be transformative, with the same damage formula as burning. However, the difference here is that Rupture's damage calculation uses the EM of the character that applied the final element to trigger Bloom, while for Burgeon and Hyper Bloom, the EM of the Pyro/Electro character is always used to calculate damage respectively. Here are the must-know details about the Bloom-related reactions. If a 6 seed is created when there are already 5 seeds on field, the oldest seed will explode immediately. Bloom spawns different amounts of seeds depending on the amount of gauge, pertaining to the elemental gauge theory. For example, 2 gauges of Hydro will spawn 2 seeds as shown here, and 1 gauge of Dendro will spawn 1 seed as shown here. Seeds can be grouped like Klee's bombs by animal characters, as shown here with Venti, and here with Sucrose. Bloom reactions are similar to Swirl in the sense of internal cooldowns, with 2 instances able to damage a single enemy every 0.5 seconds. All Bloom reactions does not reapply Dendro to enemies, and thus it cannot cause itself indefinitely. If an enemy triggers a seed, it will instead deal damage to players. The most annoying of these would be Hyper Bloom, since the projectile will home onto you. Also, since seeds are considered as entities and not as enemies, they are untargetable to many skills and bursts. Here's a short list of skills and bursts that can target seeds. Obviously, there's a lot more, but the most important ones are in fact can target seeds. Lastly, we have the Quicken reactions. Quicken only serves as a catalyst for Aggravate and Spread, and does no damage itself when triggered. Aggravate and Spread are considered additive reactions and follows the additive damage formula. Keep in mind that Elemental Mastery is not snapshotted for additive reactions, even when triggered by characters such as Beidou, whose bursts usually snapshots. The damage buff they provide works similarly to Shinhe and Yunjin, which means the damage benefits further from Electro/Dendro damage percentage, crit rate, crit damage, and defense/resistance multipliers. When triggered by swirling Electro after Aggravate, the damage is added to the swirl after any multiplicative damage modifiers such as Viridescent Veneer's 4-piece set, meaning only a flat damage increase in the case of swirling Electro. Here are the rest of the details for the Quicken reaction group. Quicken is an aura of its own, and does not mean the coexistence of Electro and Dendro. Quicken can coexist with a Dendro, Electro, or Cryo aura. The duration of Quicken is refreshed upon the reapplication of Dendro and Electro. When Pyro or Hydro is applied while there is a Quicken aura, it is treated as a Dendro aura and can be depleted via Bloom or Burning per each of their rules. Neither Spread or Aggravate will reduce the Quicken aura. It can be kept up permanently if Electro and Dendro is constantly being reapplied. Quicken lasts anywhere from 6 to 20 seconds depending on the weakest gauge of either Electro or Dendro, and its rate of decay is unique, with a formula of Quicken gauge times 5 plus 6, meaning a minimum duration of 6 seconds, and usually lasting for 11 seconds. With Aggravate and Spread, it is recommended to build damage percentage, attack percentage, and not EM, as the damage buff scales terribly for any and all characters dealing Electro damage or Dendro damage. A dedicated video will soon be out detailing how to utilize Aggravates correctly in order to maximize your damage on Electro characters. With all the reactions explained, let's get into the last tidbits of the Dendro element. A technique called Fridging can be used to preserve the Dendro aura for longer. This is done with Cryo and Dendro, where applying Hydro will trigger Frozen and Bloom at the same time. It works off the Cryo aura, continuously taxing the Hydro to proc 4 Blooms off of a single gauge of Hydro aura, similar to how 4 Overloads can be proc from 4 gauges of Electro. However, applying 2 gauges of Hydro while Fridging is ongoing will end the fridge and consume all the Dendro aura. This technique is quite complicated as it differs from character to character and involves in many cases decaying of the frozen Cryo aura. If pulled off correctly, it can be extremely useful in dealing massive amounts of damage while keeping an enemy frozen forever. The Traveler might also have been finally given a good element. While their Dendro elemental skill is quite lackluster and works similarly to Xiao's, the burst is absolutely insane. It has a good radius, deals good damage, applies consistent Dendro to enemies, and buffs the active character's EM up to a maximum of 60 while they are in its radius. The constellations are also insane and improves the Traveler's gameplay, with Constellation 1 helping with energy recharge, Constellation 2 extending the burst duration for a 5-second off time only, Constellation 4 helping to stack their burst related passive quicker, and Constellation 6 being a Dendro plus absorb element of damage buff for 15 seconds. Has miHoYo finally decided to grace the Traveler with some usefulness? We'll see tomorrow. In conclusion, with Dendro's introduction, the stale Genshin meta is finally seeing a breath of fresh air. What do you guys think? Which reactions do you guys like the most? Which teams/compositions are you guys excited to play, and which Dendro characters are you guys hyped up about? Let me know in the comments. All I know is that Dendro might have actually saved Electro like the prophecies foretold. This is Atomic, and I'll see you guys in the next one.